Even an author who is pure of heart and says their prayers by night may become a wolf when the bestseller list posts and the Goodreads star ratings are bright. And my name is Clay McLeod Chapman, and you are tuning into Fearmongers. I'm going to stop there and just say that like I have like 5 different alternate versions to the opening because like I was late to this and I was like, what is the one that's going to like culminate both like talking plants and werewolves? And I couldn't do it, but I did have some alternate takes that I figured, I mean, we're all friends here now, so
Please share them. I could listen to this
Please.
for hours. This is hypnotic.
Feed me, Sarah. Feed me. If you feed me, Sarah, I'm going to be on that bestseller list. So. And then I had, I mean, those are the like top 2 choices. The rest is like, suddenly, Sarah, I'm standing beside you. But actually, I don't know if like copyright issues or
You never know. You never know.
Little Nat, let me in, or I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your bookstore in. And that's it. That's it. Those were my. I was trying to be like
all winners.
Hey, oh, okay. Well, you guys are troopers. Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome to Fearmongers. I have been dying for this because honestly, the guests we have tonight have written 2 of my favorite books that I have read this year. And if you have not read Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin, you are missing out. And if you haven't heard me kind of go off on When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy, you have no one to blame but yourself. I mean, honestly, like, there's no, I was like trying to like, what is the thematic link between these 2? And I don't know if I got it, but I was like, when the wolf comes home or eat the ones you love. They all have the like the
Syncopation. Yeah.
you both shared release dates. Happy release dates here, at least here in the States. Your books came out on April 22nd. They are now haunting the bookshelves as we speak. I mean, I don't know. Love is intense. You're gonna get hurt. Like there's like a lot of heartbreak and angst and ache in these books, and I feel like maybe that's the link between them. Other than I don't know. These are amazing books, and I'm just really happy and grateful and thankful that you would both share the virtual airwaves with me.
Oh, it is such a pleasure, and it's such a pleasure to meet you, Sarah. Like I
Yeah,
see
real
your
joy.
book everywhere, and the cover
Same.
is so gorgeous. And it's my only regret is that it's one of those books that I have to like wait until I get through my current blurb list to read. So I'm dying to read it. I have it on Audible, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to have some killer plants in my ear.
I will also be listening to yours on a flight that I'm taking soon, and I hope to be highly distressed.
Oh, I hope so.
I'm very excited.
I hope it ruins your time.
Oh yeah.
Now, see what happens if you read the books now and or listen to them and you're like, oh my God, I was on a podcast with that person. Like that's like, ooh, like what if it goes the other way and you're both like, I'm not gonna talk to that person. You're gonna see Nat and you're gonna be like, like you know.
Look, we're all very sane. Yeah, we're sane and normal here, all of us. None of us have any, difficulties.
Not a single one.
It's fine. Yeah, none.
I do feel like we need to give Sarah some extra props because I mean you're zooming in via Dublin and you're 5 hours in the future. You're dealing with babies. You are dealing with I don't know when sleep happens, so
it doesn't.
Yeah, it's just gone.
At this point, I'm running on pure hormones and willpower, and almost nothing else. But look, I mean, it's a delight to be here. What else have I been doing at 10 o'clock at night? Only waiting for a child to wake up, do you know? So I'm delighted to be having a chat. There's also something kind of, and not that anybody in the world is nostalgic for the pandemic, but to me there is a kind of a fireside glow to do with sitting around the computer and talking to people in faraway lands in the dark, And Absolutely. if there was one warming thing from that time, it was that suddenly the computer wasn't just a source of work and kind of dull ache. It became a place where kind people and your friends lived. So I am delighted to be here. 10 o'clock at night doesn't matter. It's just
Yeah.
it's good. It's good to be here.
Now, is it true that Eat the Ones You Love was in effect a pandemic novel? Like, did you write
Yeah.
that during quarantine?
I did, yes. So just before the pandemic started, in 2019, my last novel, Other Words for Smoke, had come out, and I was working an enormous corporate project, and I became very sharply burned out, and not in the sleep it off for 3 days kind of way, more in a, oh, I can't think anymore, maybe you never will again kind of way. So I had kind of made this solemn decision to stop writing books. Obviously I did that. And instead I retrained, because I knew I would always want to do something creative, but I just couldn't use that part of my brain at all anymore. So I retrained as a commercial florist. And the final classes that I took, which were in funeral arrangements, were in March 2020. So I was stuffing a giant crucifix full of roses while my own father was struck down with one of the first wave of cases of COVID. He's okay now. So it was quite literally crawling up on our doors, and I was standing there around a bunch of flowers and realizing quickly that my apprenticeship probably wasn't going to happen, and I probably wasn't going to get to work in a shop, and I should probably sort something out. And in the process of sorting something out, this book kind of erupted, and I had finished another novel that was waiting in inboxes to be seen, and this one became my sort of lifeboat. So the original draft of this story, which is set in a shopping centre, was set in 2021. So Ireland was locked down for quite a long time. Not that it stopped COVID ravaging the nation, but we were locked down for proportionally longer than a lot of other places. So this was a pandemic novel, and if you squint, you can still see that it's about a lot of the things that we experienced in that season. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I I just feel like I need to take a moment and just kind of pay lip service to the fact that, like, if it were not for the fact that you had taken this class, this book would just not
Never.
exist, would it?
No, never. I learned that orchids were cheap, and they don't need the heat to grow.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I think one of the things that the two women who taught the floristry classes, Jeanette and Deirdre, told me, and kind of they didn't say it so directly because they're normal, was that when you're selling flowers to people or when you work as a florist, you are effectively dealing in the dead already. A flower is dead the second that it's cut.
Yeah.
So the act of floristry and the trade is about prolonging decay and making something that's already dead become more beautiful until the moment of its departure.
Yeah.
So when you buy a rose, for example, sometimes you can find them when they're very tight and they will just expand, bloom, become blown out and fall apart.
Yeah.
And you want to sell them at a point just when the decay starts to get beautiful. Like that is crazy Gothic for something that is a very working class trade, you know? So yeah, of course a novel came out of it. Jesus Christ, it's all there.
I love it because I remember reading that in the book and just being kind of blown away by that thought. But I am having this moment where I'm just thinking of you in your house, suddenly on lockdown, surrounded by funeral wreaths. Was this just like...
I can send you a photo. It was
Really?
bizarre. I was working in a shared office with some other women, and I used to come back to the office on my way home, and I would leave the flowers for the girls. And there was one day I never went back, and they sent me this big picture of our desk, and it was just like a ceremonial table. It was covered in flowers.
I feel like this book is being, I don't know if it's being posited, like kind of like presented as a love story, but love is at the kind of, it is the focal point of it. And like, yet every time I read the word love within the scope of this book, I get a little shiver, like there's like this like chill down my spine. And I feel like out of the gates, like my big question to you is like, what is love in this novel? Like, because it feels like just a little bit off center from what, like, it is a love story. There is a lot of love within this book, and yet, like, what is that love feels
Mm.
almost like mad-libbed, of like, if I took the word love out and put, I don't know, possession, or devouring, like, you could like only like consuming, like, there's something to be said about what love is. I don't know if it's hiding, like, if there's something behind the love, but I don't know. Like, this is my kind of like, sloppy way of asking, like, what is love in this book? Like, if we're eating the ones we love, what is that love?
That's such a great question. I because it is a story about love. But I think that there are lots of different ways to give love and to receive it. It's also a story about like I mean it's I'll get to the money bit later, but it's mostly God, this is such a good question. You've really stumped me. The love is hunger, I guess, right? This feeling of consumption, or wanting to consume, or wanting to be consumed. Baby is our protagonist. I guess, is he a protagonist? He's the narrator. He is an orchid who is in love, sort of, with this florist, Nev. And the love that he feels for her is one that is very, very closely tied to wanting to become her, and wanting to occupy the same psychic realm as her forever. Like he wants to kind of fuse with her and exist in a world that only belongs to the two of them. And like, that's a really horrible kind of destiny for poor Nev. But isn't that also sort of what the nice part of being in love feels like, when everything else melts away and it's just you and the other person, and you live in a kind of a private realm? There's a really positive spin on that, and also a really frightening spin on that. And I love the duality of those two things. Shell, who was our kind of the sort of Matryoshka doll of protagonists in this story. You think it might be Shell, you think it might be Jen, you think it might be Baby. It moves around a little. Shell is not in love with anybody. Like, Shell is somebody who's following her desire. Young Kiro, who is somebody who she follows her desire towards, I think he's probably actually in love with her, and he's a much more minor character. Dr. Jen is experiencing protracted heartbreak. There are lots of different hearts in the story, I suppose. And I don't think there's any happily ever after. I don't think that anybody experiences a good love, really, in the whole story. But I do think that everyone gets what they deserve,
Wow.
if that makes sense. It's not about wanting or needing. It's about what is deserved in the end. So I'm not sure if I answered that very clearly, because you're after really making me think there. But I do think love is more tightly connected to hunger and consumption than anything else, really, in the story.
But I love that. I mean, I love that, like, I don't know, like, I feel as if, like, love is the thing that kind of fills up the negative space. It's the thing that kind of, like, if there are cavities to be filled, love, settles in. And I think of this shopping mall, which the majority of the book kind of takes place in this. I don't know if I mean, it is on the brink of collapse. And
it's teetering.
Yeah, but it's I mean, I'm of a particular generation where I fondly remember shopping malls, and think of them as like, but like, not to give anything away, but like, it's what's underneath that shopping mall, or kind of in the walls and the crawl spaces of that mall, that feel as if, like, I almost saw it as this kind of like heart that was being kind of filled from the inside out by our little baby. So
It is. Have you ever worked in a mall?
I did. Chesterfield Town Center. In the 9th grade, I worked at the Dairy Queen, in the food court.
What age is 9th grade now?
I
have
guess I
them
was
here.
like 14.
Oh, yeah. First off, gorgeous. Yeah.
Were you a mauler?
I was, and the Woodbine Crown in this story is based loosely off a shopping centre I worked in a now defunct video game store chain in, and for 3 years, and I worked next door to a flower shop. And
Flowers are always there. They were just like
they
waiting
were
for you to like just
lingering.
put the pieces together. That is mind blowing.
And in the middle of that mall, when I was a child, there was a giant glass garden, which was knocked down to be turned into escalators. So there is, and of course, because it was the early 90s, there are no photographs of it. It only kind of exists in a social memory. Oh, do you remember when Dunamede had the garden, you know? But no one has any images of it. So it exists as this kind of folkloric touch for people who are millennial and beyond. And yeah, so it's a place that's very important to me. And they are places that are dying, and they are the opposite of the internet, and they are strange, and they are dilapidated, and they are still breathing somehow. They're my favorite places in the whole world. I think they're a kind of a like, I'm not going to say church, but they're a place where people go to be together, whether they know it or not.
I'm really happy that you brought up Baby, because I think Baby is, I mean, given the fact that the book is narrated by something that I feel like I probably haven't heard much kind of like perspective from, I just was really curious, and just the kind of like the simplest way, like what was the epiphany point for you of like, oh, this book is going to be narrated by a talking plant, like that, like I'm going to do this, like when, like what was the switch for you of saying, am I going to do this? I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book from the perspective of a plant.
That's such a great question. In my last book, there was a monster, and his name was Sweet James, and writing him was my favorite part of that story. And Other Words for Smoke is a book about a house fire, and it's also about women in Ireland. And the monster in that story was he was my favorite thing I've ever written, and he stayed under my skin. So I decided to give him a cousin. And in the next novel that I have coming out in 2026, another cousin of theirs will appear as well.
Oh
so I'm
You're
less
creating
interested
a family, like a family tree of just like
pantheon. Yeah. So it's exciting because there's nothing better than a monster being at the end of a book, right? You know, surprise, we're somewhere that you didn't think we were going. So with Baby, I wanted to. So Stephen King has this thing in On Writing, she says, like a very stereotypical master's student, that a haunt is a place where animals go to feed. So a haunting is a site of feeding. And that kind of molecularly rearranged me when I read it for the first time. So I got really interested in this idea of creatures that were hungry and the things that humans had to offer them, which were more than just our flesh and our bodies, our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings. And Baby is really hungry for more than just bodies. He's hungry for emotion. And his voice came to me before him as an orchid came to me. I was really sure that he was very young, that he had one target, that he was kind of bitchy. You know, I had this sense of this spoilt, babied creature that slipped through to our reality and found itself in something vulnerable, and used that vulnerability to pull in people to tend to him, which were two florists. And that's where he kind of sprouted from. So his monstrosity came before his physical form.
And then what is the kind of process of discovery then? I mean, like, I feel as if the challenge that you set out for yourself of like, I am relegating, I mean, ultimately you're relegating 3/4-ish of the book to this one perspective, and you are firmly, no pun intended, rooted within the point of view of this inanimate, I mean, quote unquote inanimate, like cosmic craven, like, things that are not us, things are not you, things are not human, like, like I feel as if it, 10 pages in, 50 pages in, 100 pages in, it'd be like, ha ha ha, this was a fun exercise, but where do I go from here? Like you are entrenched in that point of view, to the extent where you are viewing the world different, like our world, through the eyes of
Definitely.
someone who is not either of this world or doesn't understand this world or needs to learn about this world. And that just feels tough, or like it's
Yeah.
an interesting challenge that you set for yourself. So I guess like my question to you is like, what was that process of discovery? What did you learn about baby, given the fact that you put the blinders on, like the baby blinders, like you are now this character?
Um, that's such a good way of looking at it. This book was tough for lots of reasons, but baby was the most fluent part for me.
Mm.
I'm really interested in perspective switching, and in my I've used second person heavily in my previous work, and I see baby as kind of an omniscient third.
Mhm.
So what if you had an omniscient narrator who had a voice instead of was just like, I am the fucking voice of God, I'm the author telling you vaguely what people feel. What if you wrapped a tone around that, an identity? And
Mhm.
what if that identity was cruel? I'm going to refer I don't know, I feel like sometimes when I say stuff like this, if you guys play video games here and there. Well, there's
I
a
mean,
video
if
game
you
called
quiz me, it would be
Portal.
terrible.
There's a
Oh,
video game called
Portal,
Portal,
yes.
which
Portal is
is
so fun.
it's beautiful and it's fun as well. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. It's one of the kind of the Criterion collection of modern games. I moonlight as a video game critic, so it's my other wheelhouse. But Portal is narrated by the monster. Portal is narrated by a corrupted robot called GLaDOS who hates you. And it's very funny. It's played largely for laughs. But it's kind of the only time I've really ever seen that done. And I took, in terms of it not trapping myself in that thought experiment, I had an example to go by in a different medium.
Mhm.
You know, like Baby's story is of a plant that grows in a very small world, and he only knows what the people whose feelings he's eaten can give him. But the focus is so tightly on Shell and on Nev within the story that I did never feel like I was going to lose him, and also because he was fun, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how much fun I'm having as the reader of it. So
I'm glad.
it's great to know that it was infectious and that like the fun started with you, because I'm still feeling baby.
He's a bad guy. He's no fun.
Um, it can't be true. I'm going to ask you, but I still refuse to believe that it is true that you have never, ever yet read from this book in public. Is that
No.
that?
Once to a little classroom, and that was it. But
Oh my
never
God.
like this. Never to people I don't know. Never on the air. Yeah.
That's
So
mind blowing. Um, well, then the easiest question of the night for me is, Sarah, is it story time? Are you ready to
all right.
share?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. For the
Oh,
first time ever, other than that one class, we will not name, we're gonna hear Sarah Marie Griffin read for the very, 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 very first time, Eat the Ones You Love.
the first thing I felt was the hunger. No language, no names, no numbers, no wonder, just the simple knowledge that I had to eat. When I came up out of the earth, that slow unburying, and that slight and frail woman, Carla, was there, Nev, 16, by her aunt's side. The thing that would fill my starve became obvious, immediate. I opened and closed my new petals, a gesture of thirst. They found me sweet, treated me like a baby animal. Baby. Funny how when you name a thing, that name turns over and over. Certainly I was new on their side of the earth, yes. I was small, but like a human child, I was only ever going to grow, going to change, going to become. Perhaps if they had recognized me as something other than sweet, things might have been different, but they wanted to care for me immediately. Carla came to feed me day after day, tended my soil, watered me, sang me gentle songs about a moon she assumed I would never see, brought a heat lamp to stand over my tiny green body. Nev orbited her, a clumsy satellite, saying almost nothing, face dappled with acne, eyes glassy, and already holding a secret bigger than her body. She was good at secrets. Perhaps this was what drew me towards her, the first thing I liked about her. She had a lot of space for me to grow. I would find more chambers in her for more secrets over time. The girl is a cathedral, a mall with an empty store for each bad thing she did for me, for each witnessing. She grew me for the span of her life over again. I was a hinge in the center of her experience. If she hadn't been devoted to me early, she would have killed me when I was small enough to kill, when I wasn't inside her yet. She had the chance when she was 21, 5 slow growing years after that first day. I'd become too hungry to survive as I was. Their feeding me mice and little packets of deli ham was mere pantomime. I was never satiated. Their voices soothed me, their love. That was something close to satisfaction, something to distract me from the gnawing emptiness inside me, from what my mouth wanted. I exerted some reserves of energy one night to grow large, temporarily, to imply to Carla and Nev that I was to be fed something more significant than the scraps they had brought me. Not a threat exactly, more a suggestion. I split the bed they had grown me in, allowed my flesh to expand heavy out onto the floor of the green hall, allowed my teeth to grow long inside my mouth, blossomed desperately thousands of white petals. I did not have the strength to sustain this form for long. I knew I would have to shrink again, disappear down again, maybe hide beneath the soil again if I wasn't fed. I did not expect Carla to become the object of my feasting. It was not as deliberate as my future feedings would become. There was no strategy to it. I was, after all, a baby. I found myself overcome by a need and finally large enough to feed myself if I was not fed appropriately. She was frightened when she saw me so large, when I opened my eye, when I showed her the huge dark place beyond my mouth. The tone of my voice was no longer sweet, and it frightened her when I begged to be fed. The look on her face made her the meal. I knew she was prey in that moment. What was I to do but accept her as she was, Carla, benevolent florist, small business owner, unmarried, wedded only to her little shop? I extended my tongue and took her by the legs and swallowed her in a single breath. For a moment it was beautiful. Oh, to be full. Oh, to be at peace. Oh, her good heart, her clean soul. The gold in the lobes of her ears, the metal in her teeth, the peroxide in her hair. I ate the chemical mascara from her eyelashes. And then I ate the eyelashes. The sheep's wool of her sweater, the rubber in the white shoes she wore, the feel of the halo of communion wafer in her hands at 5 years old, the first, second, and third time she was kissed, the decade in which she touched nobody, the worst time she was hurt, the dark of an empty cinema, the horror of 14, rosary beads between her fingers, the taste of milk, fir trees covered in lights, paper in her hands, the first time she saw a flower and knew its name. Her blood was copper, all for me, all of it. And yes, her heart, a heavy gemstone, a black red amulet, a soft ruby, mine, mine, mine. I ate the entirety of her. The knowledge in her nerve endings, the secrets in her bones. I took all of it below the earth, and then I spat out the earthliness of her, a husk, once I had consumed what I wanted. I kept her eyes, her teeth, the nails in her fingers, her toes, her rings, her secrets. I shrank back down, an imitation flower, a clever mimic, satisfied for a while, full at last. When little Nev came back looking for her in the cold dawn to get started on their daily work, I must admit I wished I had not left her in such a state. But Nev's horror was not total. She was pragmatic, standing there over Carla, who had given her somewhere to go away from the violence of her household, the bigotry of her family. Carla was gone. Carla was part of me, assimilated into the green landscape of my body. It didn't take Nev long to understand this. I sang it to her soft, made no apologies, said only that I had just been so hungry. I understand, Nev said to me, but what do I do with this? She gestured her hand over the flesh that remained. Nobody can know. You cannot ask for help, I said to her. I have never asked for help in my life, Nev replied, and it was true then. The silence that took hold as she stood over Carla's remains was the one in which I became part of her. I had merely admired her, crawled close to her until that moment, but in the quiet she became allied to me. I spored down into her skin. I filled up her lungs, her tear ducts. She could have taken a brick to me and done terrible damage. She could have dug me up with her hands or a spade or poured bleach into the ground. I was young enough then, my roots bare and scant. Instead, she took the collection of skin and water and bone and organ that would once been her aunt, her family, and slung it over her shoulder. Carla had been a fragile woman, and in her departure was easy to transport. Can you do something to the cameras? There are cameras, so nobody can see me taking her, said Nev, clipped, grunting under the weight, face pale, eyes mercury. And with the new strength I had from the feed, I focused, and my eye did not grow large in my face, but it did grow more all-seeing. I let my roots get longer, far longer, spindle in width, plenty of them, each with the dexterity of a human hand. I moved myself like water through the bricks and concrete and plywood and plaster of the building. All this new power made it easy for me. There were so few cameras in the building. It was 2004, wired things, less intelligent, easier to corrupt, unplug, fry. The tapes in the empty security centre didn't run blank, but played over and over themselves, silent and static, and no teenager with a dead woman over her shoulder lurching through the empty mall would be recorded, tears streaming down her face, but her heartbeat steady and unmoved. No evidence. None.
Man. Oh, that is honestly like one of my, as soon as you started reading it, it's like, oh, she's reading my favorite part of the book. Like,
thank you. It's horrible.
I want to
I'm
read
so
this
sorry.
book so bad.
oh
Oh.
God. Nat,
Thank
you have to
you.
follow that.
Don't
I'm
mind
just
me.
going to
Thank
read
you
more
so
from that
much.
book.
No problem. Thank you.
Oh my God, Sarah, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's such a beautiful book, and I never want to look at another plant ever.
Get rid of them all. Get rid of them all.
Oh,
Raise them.
yeah. Oh God.
Can't trust him.
Can't trust him. That's the thing. Never gonna trust a plant. Never gonna go, like, never gonna like pick up that bouquet. Just be like, because
You'll see faces in all of them if you look closely enough.
oh jeez. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. It's funny that we're talking about kind of like, I'm gonna segue with shapeshifting, and this is my shrewd way of getting to Nat.
Excellent.
It's amazing how like how spoilerific are we, Nat? Like I feel like you have a Trojan werewolf, and I don't know how much how far in do you want to divulge? Where can we go?
It's funny. Like Nightfire has released 2 official synopses of the book, and the first one doesn't really spoil like the first of several twists, and then the second one does spoil like the first thing. So depending on what promotional material readers have encountered, it's not a spoiler for some, and then it is a spoiler for others. And so it is a weird little delicate dance that I have to choreograph, because I feel validity for both experiences. Like, all of which to say, I don't know. I guess we could do a little light spoiling. We could lift the hem up a little bit.
I'm not gonna go too deep, but because half of the joy, no, like 3/4 of the joy is to realize what this book blossoms into. That
Flower.
like, I mean, like you wanna walk into it and you feel like, oh, I know what I'm getting myself into because I've read this synopsis or I've seen the cover, and then like all of a sudden the book kind of unfurls, the narrative unfurls in such a way that it's like, oh, and like the pleasure of that experience is in of itself slightly a spoiler. So I feel like it's hard to speak of it beyond the fact that like you're embracing transformation, you're embracing change, and that has you've got a lot of mileage out of that, man. And I'm just like happy that this book is out there in the world now, because I feel like I was privy to it maybe like a year ago. And I reread it over the weekend to be like, what ending did he go for again? It's like, where did it land? So I think out of the gates, my first question, which is not spoilerish, but
How does it end?
Does he see dead people? What is Bruce Willis again? But how do you map out a child's sense of fear, like as a narrative device? Like I feel like the kind of guiding narrative spine of this book is one child's like just terror, like just like and so you as the author are kind of like creating this kind of like, I don't know if it's a schematic, but it is kind of like, okay, well, we're gonna be scared about this here, and then we're gonna be scared about this here. And like that fear is the thing that like propels the narrative of this story. And like, I mean, you're not allocating, you're not kind of like rooted in the perspective of this child, but you are letting his terror kind of push the character, push the story towards the next thing, which is like, I don't know, like it's, that feels challenging to me. That feels difficult, that it's like, okay, what are you scared about now? Okay, what are you scared about now? Like, are you scared of this? Are you scared of this? Like, how did you, like, did you make a list? Like, how did you do it? That's the question.
Man, Clay out of the gate with the good questions. That's a great question. It's probably, I mean, it's, let's see how to articulate it, because in a way it was the easiest thing, because in a way I was just drawing on remembering what it was like to be that age, because I was a really scared little kid. And the thing that I remember from that age is how everything has equal value when you're young, because you don't have a context for what is, what is what is disposable, what is generic, and what is special, what is unique, what is the thing that is like the threat or the wonder. Like everything means the same because everything is so massive and novel, and like the colors are so primary. And so I remember very clearly, like, just as a for instance, things like, the theme song to DuckTales, which is like the most like delightful little up tempo, like it's an
Every
adventure.
word,
DuckTales.
Yeah,
every word.
yeah. And do you
Like,
remember the middle eight where it's like,
the danger
the
right
danger?
behind
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
there's a stranger out to find you.
Hmm.
Freaked me the hell out. And it was like this whole universe of terror within,
Yeah.
3
A couple of
seconds.
bars. Yeah.
And then back to normal. And so, but like, I didn't feel any sort of like compromise with the emotion at the time. And I'm sure it was like that for everyone of that age encountering that song, where it's just like, yeah, race cars, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Oh God, terror. Terror, 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 terror. And then, yeah, we're back to DuckTales. Or like the theme to like Ghostbusters was the same thing. Just the idea of an invisible man sleeping in my bed messed me up. And then I went on with my Ghostbusters enjoying Ray Parker Jr. life. And so it was kind of just trying to harken back to that feeling of the way little kids are so great at just losing balance and then finding balance. And there's like no, when you're an adult, if like something messes you up, you have a hangover for a little while. You're just like, oh, I'm mad about that, or man, I'm feeling I gotta like process these emotions. But when you're a kid, it's just like, I'm here, then I'm there, then I'm there, and then I'm there, and then I'm there again. So the trick was to just remember when looking through that character's POV that, it was almost like a writing exercise in a way. And I'm sure you both uh, uh, deal with this all the time in your writing as well, where like, when you write a scene and then you're like, something's not quite happening in the scene, or like, I don't quite know what this scene needs to be. And you realize then it's just because you haven't envisioned it specifically enough. Like there are physical details that you need to be playing with, that you need to like discover in the creating the scene. It was very much like that. Like I just needed to remember the physical details that this child was facing, or even the emotional details that this child was facing, and just then find the springboard of where that specificity could take on a threat, could take on something new, could take on something destabilizing for the stasis that he's trying to find, because there's just terror everywhere.
So was it you? I mean, kind of reflecting on your own kind of personal fears, like making the list of like, I was afraid of DuckTales, I was afraid of this, or was it like, I mean, I imagine you kind of like, just, I'm gonna take a walk and see what's out there, and like, oh, that's pretty scary, like like I'm gonna let go of it, I swear, but like I just want to know, like, without necessarily needing to get into the specifics of like, and then this is what happens in the book, and then this what happens in the book, like, did you, like, were you compiling like, where did the things come from that are like pushing the story forward.
Yeah.
Where did the
I mean,
spooky stuff come from, man?
I mean, it really just it comes from wherever the characters found themselves, really. Like, I knew at one point, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I knew at one point that they were going to have to, like, because it's a chase novel, right? The basic premise is that this you know, malcontent, dissatisfied, slacker sort of struggling actress in LA winds up in the custody of this abused, scared little boy as they are being chased cross country by the little boy's monstrous father, who will stop at nothing to get his son back. And so they're just constantly on the run. And it was basically like, well, where are they now? And then what is that little boy seeing for the first time? It was kind of a you know, either by luck or by pre-planning that I just thankfully did well enough that this little boy has no like context for anything at all, even more than a normal 5-year-old. Like, his father has kept him completely quarantined and isolated, so this kid knows nothing. He's never heard a story read to him. He's never like seen anything on TV. He doesn't even know what TV is. So it was just kind of constantly remembering the novelty that is assaulting this very new, very sensitive little being. And so, like, there's a scene where, like, they have to get supplies. So they have to stop at a gas station, and he's never seen a gas station before. And what is in the gas station that would be, wondrous or terrifying to him? And then they have to go to a Target. And, like, what is that bombardment of stimuli for this little creature? What are the things that are terrifying, and what are the things that are wondrous, that are inspiring? And here's an anecdote that I've never shared before. So this is another FEARMONGERS exclusive. Fear. So, like, Clay, pulling back the curtain a little bit, Clay and I are both recovering theater makers here in New York City. And on top of the playwriting and stuff like that, I also was a director. And once I directed a play that was for children, and it was marketed as basically Beckett for babies. It was
God.
an audience. It was for like 2 to, I don't know, like 8 or something like that. It was
God.
it's a wonderful theater company for young audiences called Spellbound, and this was just like a one-person show called Grump. And it was about this like grumpy little guy who like gets up every day and then he puts together like this little mural, and it's really beautiful. And then he basically like dramatizes the neighborhood that all of these kids would probably live in. It's kind of like, here's your Brooklyn walk. He basically like puts together. And it eventually like gets feedback from the kids, and they tell him the things to put where and stuff like that. It was a very lovely little thing, but there was this really weird vibe of like post-apocalypse to it. It felt like he was trying to recreate society from like the ruins every morning, and it was very, I
That
loved
is
it.
very Beckett. That's
Yeah,
real
it
Beckett.
was
Yeah.
like, he might as well have been like buried halfway in sand.
Up his neck. Yeah.
Yeah. But like what I found fascinating was like, of course, as a forever horror fan and horror writer, even at the time, like, I knew I had tendencies that I had to like sit on to like not alienate the audience and stuff like that. And I thought I was doing as good a job as I could. And like, when the little kids are in the audience, the show begins with Grump sleeping in his tent, snoring. Uh, and even then, even with like as much foresight as I wanted to put into the production, that it would not be too disturbing for the youngest audience members, every performance, like, the lights would come up and there'd just be like feet sticking out of the tent, and you'd hear snoring, and several children in the audience would start crying, or you'd hear them say to their parents like, I want to go home, I don't like this, I don't like this. And it was like such a visceral reminder that things that seem so anodyne, things that seem so harmless, to someone who's that sensitive and new, it's terrifying because there's no context at all. So it was like remembering that sort of response when writing this little boy, that it was like the smallest thing could be just utterly, universe shatteringly terrifying.
Yeah.
And you don't know, and yet you still, as the caregiver, as the custodian, you can't like say like, no, it's not, that's not scary, because it is. So you just have to deal with their fear. And like, that is one of the like running themes of this story is, you know, that like yes and nature to fear and to pursuit. You know, because Jess, her as a character, her background is all in improv comedy, and so she has to like learn to just like roll with it. Like as you
Yeah.
said, like the story starts out in one place and it keeps shapeshifting and changing, and it's like, okay, I just got to go with it.
I feel like the biggest crime this novel commits, though, is make me sympathize for an improv actor,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I didn't think was possible.
There are
And
monsters among us.
it, I mean, it's phenomenal how you take improv as a like not improv per se, but like improv acting, like it like the what we have come to know and understand as improv, like just as a
Like a
medium.
culture.
Yeah, that you like you take it and kind of like elevate, like you lift it to like cosmic proportions, and I'm just like, I remember like every time I've read this book, I'm like, oh my God, like Nat, fucking stop it with the improv. Because like I I'm confessing this myself. I'm basically putting my kind of personal biases out there. So this is me. It's not you, Nat. But like it's so hard to like you say improv actor and like a wall for me just goes up. I'm just like, I'm not I'm like, nope, nope. and yet and yet like you've given us a character where it's almost it's vital, it's
Yeah.
necessary, and it is vital that they are of this culture, so goddamn you.
I remember when you read like early pages of it, and there's a scene where like the like litany of improv rules is kind of incorporated into the narrative voice, and Clay was just like, I'm out, I
I,
can't, like
I
it just
I
No,
begged you to
and
cut it.
yeah,
bye.
exactly. He no butted me.
Oh
Full
my God.
stop.
There's no question here, it's just a statement. I'm just like stating facts to you now, Nat. Like
Clay hate improv.
I mean, but like this book should be sold at UCB now. Like it should be kind of like on their front, like, you know, or the
I
pit or
reread the UCB handbook while
oh
writing this book just
God.
to make sure I was doctrinaire about my improv rules.
I mean, they're like probably like the what is it, the groundlings and like Second City, they're all like, finally, we have someone who's like speaking for us. This is like they're telling our story now.
Yeah,
And it just so happens to
representation
be a
matters.
horror book. So it was a horror for the rest of us for the like
Yeah.
all those other years of sitting through your shows. Now we get to put you through it, thanks to Nat Cassidy. Um, all right, I've I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to dig in just a little bit to one specific scare because and maybe this is the point, like if listeners don't want the experience to be spoiled, maybe tune out for now for 10 minutes, 3 minutes. But like I want to ask you about a particular animated film that just so happens to be on the TV
Hmm.
at the hotel. Um, you know, like it becomes necessary to sit this child down, have them watch something to kind of get their minds off of things, and it just so happens to that this movie is playing, and I I'm being coy about mentioning it because I'm hoping that you'll either choose to or say I'm not going to. But like, can you speak to this specific moment in the book and where the idea came from?
Sure. I absolutely. Let's see how to do it as tantalizing as possible. That was one of those moments where I was really glad and grateful to be with the publishers who have the same legal team as the one that handled Mayfly, because they were able to ensure that any references are oblique enough to, you know, it's I'm not speaking about something super specific. It could be anything. Although I think I do slip some specifics in, but I think it all got the legal okay. Um,
Is that a
because
genuine concern? Like, was there like, oh, you can't mention it because that'll like, uh-oh, they'll come after you.
I think like to an extent, like I think they're like fair use will cover you as far as it will, and then there's probably some ways to go afterwards where, you know, if I didn't specify things in the narrative that like it isn't exactly that like it's like hearing the memory of you know, like a game of Operator. It's the game of Operator version of the thing. That I think gave enough distance that it was like, okay, that we can do. We're talking about a phenomenon, not about trademarked characters. And that gave us enough wiggle room. Much like how Mayfly is like, this is just like, you know, the most best mood place on Earth. It's not the happiest place on Earth. Yeah, so it was there was a little bit of narrative dancing that needed to happen. But again, like that moment where a movie ostensibly for children terrorizes this child, again, kind of came out of memories as a kid, because there were so many things that especially then in that era, in the era of shopping malls, in the era that we are all as millennials and more advanced remember, like there was just like so much.
The twilight of the 90s. Shit was
Yeah.
very weird.
Shit was so
Even things
weird.
that were meant to be nice were really weird.
They were, and like aggressively weird. Like there were so many
Everything
things.
Don Bluth made.
Oh my God.
Everything.
It was like a challenge for him to traumatize children at every turn.
I urge you to revisit Thumbelina.
Oh.
What a time.
Yeah.
What a
Or
time.
like The Brave Little Toaster. Or
no,
Secret
thank you.
of Nim. Or
All Dogs Go to Heaven.
All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Are you serious?
There's hell in there. It's beyond fucked up.
Terrible
and so
time.
like this movie was acknowledging that. Like, and like another example was like when I was a kid, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, when Large Marge appeared, I literally ran out of the room shrieking in terror. I
had to learn a bit what that was when I lived in America. Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
I had no idea who Pee-wee Herman was until I lived in the States. I was like, excuse me?
Wow.
Yeah, very specific
this gentleman?
celebrity.
This grown gentleman?
With a talking couch.
You allowed him in your homes on purpose.
We did. We pledged allegiance to him every day.
Ooh.
And then he made a movie where there's one of the like most frightening jump scares of all time, and then the movie just continues with his like childhood whimsy. So like I really wanted to, since this is a novel about fear, and specifically like the different perspectives of adult versus child fear, I really wanted to have those like more garish, you know, cartoonish versions of fear represented. And also like I wanted to honor, because Jess is kind of like the surrogate for me, as someone who like doesn't know what to do around a kid that age. Like if I found myself in the care of a 5-year-old, I probably would be like, oh, I loved this movie when I was a kid, and just like sit them down in front of it, even though like it's got moments of absolute irresponsible. I'd be like, yeah, Brave Little Toaster. It's animated.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Well,
Bam.
I'm gonna confess now. After reading the book, I was like, oh, it can't be that bad. So like, I have 2 kids. I have 2 boys, and my knee-jerk impulse after finishing the book was like, it's pizza movie night. We have to watch something. So I was like, hey guys, let's watch. And
I really want to know what it is now. Oh my God.
we put it in, and I have a 12-year-old, and the 12-year-old was like, okay. You're like kind of like ambivalent in the tween zone. But my 9-year-old was like, I'm too young for that. It was like, what is going on? Like, he was like, this is too much. This is too much. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like you can see the kind of like, where's the line? Is this the line? And then, oh, we crossed the line. Okay, well, let's pull back. So,
wasn't that such a great mental phenomenon to experience when you were that age, where you would have that thought of like, I'm too young for this.
Yeah.
Like it was like, it speaks to each individual kid too. Like there are the kids who are like, I'm too young for this. Like I'm gonna this is gonna mess me up, and I'm excited. And the kids who are like, nope, I do not fit this qualification at all.
I was at a sleepover when I was 9, at that 9 point, and The Exorcist was banned in Ireland. Do you know that?
Yeah.
And someone had acquired a VHS of it.
Oh my God.
And it was left in the living room at the disposal of a parliament of 9-year-old girls.
Oh yes.
And I did not last very long. I wandered off to the kitchen with my sleeping bag and slept under the table.
Oh my God.
And for the rest of the summer, slept with rosary beads under my pillow.
Oh my God.
Was just petrified, ruined, like absolutely destroyed by it. Completely
And all
took
those
it
other girls
very literally.
possessed.
Oh yeah, Brides of Satan, every last one of them. They thought it was hilarious because they could see through the costumery and the nonsense.
Yeah.
And you're falling on that lovely dial when you're that age where you turn into I'm too young for this or I'm too young for this, and it's such a gray space. It's such a gray space. Great for being terrified though, you know.
Oh, totally.
Recreationally terrified.
I've been chasing that high ever since as an adult.
Oh,
like, I
ever
wanna
since.
be fucked up.
Oh my God, I want to be scared so much. Yeah.
Read each other's books. Read them.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of going over, so I wanna be mindful of your time, Sarah. But I have to ask Nat one more question before story
Oh,
time.
please keep going.
I mean, like for me, like what I'm fascinated, Nat, by your insistence on keeping the story going even when the story is done. And you've done this thing 3 times now with your afterwards. Like the afterwards, like I feel as if I have heard from readers on some either virtual sphere, social media sphere, like just out there in the world that like people, a lot of the people who come to your books now kind of desire like this kind of furthering of the conversation, and you've baked into your books the idea of, I mean, you have these afterwards, and like not many people do that, but you do, and I feel like you've kind of cornered the market now, at least in this kind of genre, that like if I was like, I want to write an afterward, people would be like, no, Nat's got that covered. But like my question to you is like, what was the impetus to do this, and what is that conversation that you're kind of embarking upon? Because it is a more direct line between you and the reader, and the reader now comes to expect it. And I'm just really curious, like what that is for you, where it comes from, and how, like, yeah, just what is it?
It's a great question, and I love it. I feel so grateful and lucky that I kind of stumbled into this sort of expectation, and I hope that I can, I hope that I can continue to indulge, I guess, because I take horror as a genre very, very seriously, and like the kind of holiness of what it means to like tell a spooky story and what it is that we get out of fear, like us weirdos who are like the I'm too young for this, like that vibe. Like what is this serving? I I look back as a kid who was so terrified and yet was also so compelled by this genre and like by the things that would make me like sleep under the kitchen table. And I'm Jewish, so we didn't have rosary beads, but like I don't know, holding like a Star of David under the pillow or something like that. Like what was that compulsion, and why does that compulsion continue? Like I think there's a really like holy reason why so much of our even cultural early stories are about terrifying monsters and are about like scaring each other, and finding meaning in what it means to be mortal and what it means to have like the great undiscovered country of death awaiting us all. Like it just seems like a weighty thing that like we all feel better about when we can like help each other carry that weight with fear and with scary stories and with this communal sharing of primal responses to things. All of which is to say, then, like, I love the act of being like, well, here's where this story came from. Here's where, here's what I was thinking when I was, writing this werewolf ripping people apart. Like, these were the things that I was trying to metabolize, with this story. And I've found that, like, that pipeline with the reader, that like that directness has led to some really fulfilling in ways I never could have imagined moments with readers when they're able to like say to me like, I have gone through the same thing, or I had like in this instance, When the Wolf Comes Home is all about dads and daddy issues and shape shifting and the kind of mutable relationship between child and parent and the role of parent to begin with. And so like I've had so many people tell me either online or in person like, you know, I also have a relationship with my dad that like I'm still trying to figure out. And like it meant a lot to hear that articulated in this story. Or like I'm trying to figure out my own role as a father. And like it was really, you know, this story like was delightful or thrilling or it fucked me up, but like also then like it gave me this feeling of like catharsis in a way. And I stumbled. The reason why I say I stumbled upon it, kind of ass backwards, is because it all kind of came from this place of my first book, Mary, which is all about perimenopause, and things like that. And my editor and I were very conscious of the fact that I'm a dumb cis dude, so like I need to make sure that I am portraying you know, this biological phenomenon with as much sensitivity and accuracy and openness to feedback as possible. So we sent out the manuscript, you know, when it was like second, third draft or something like that, to a number of beta readers to get feedback. You know, some of them were people I knew, some of them were people that I'd never met before. And one of the people that I had never really met before, wrote back and she was like, I got to be honest, I really bristled at this book. I had a really hard time with this book because there's a lot of like there's a lot of like inner self-hate. There's a lot of like self-inflicted misogyny in this book, and I only read it because I'm friends with the editor and I trusted the editor that there was a reason why she's behind this book and why you know, this book was worth reading. And then at a certain point in the narrative, it's revealed that voice of misogyny is purposeful. It is meant to be aggressive and disquieting at first for it to then be transcended. So it was like that. It was intentional that the like sort of potentially offensive stuff at the beginning was intentional. And so this beta reader then was like, so it would be really helpful if like there was just like acknowledgement of that at the beginning, if like we could just know that, you know, the internalized misogyny in this book is not an artifact that has been dug up many times in horror literature. That is not like an unintentional sort of thing, that it's just like another dude writing a woman's experience. And so that led me then to write this foreword where I was like, you know, because I didn't just want to say like trigger warning, internalized misogyny. I wanted to like, you know, talk about it a little bit. And so I started talking about where this book came from and my mom and my relationship to horror and my relationship to, you know, the topics at hand. And then there were some spoilery things in it, so I saved those spoilery things for the afterword and kind of continued that conversation. And it just became such a, I don't know, such a satisfying and important part of the experience of telling that story that then I felt compelled to do it again with Nestlings, and then I felt compelled to do it again with When the Wolf Comes Home. And now I look at it as this immense privilege to just be able to like, you know, because it's not like I think like my experiences are anything like special and it's like, here's why I had to tell this story, but it's just kind of like, hey, like, you know, here's why I told this scary story. Like, what does it mean to you? Tell me your afterward. Tell me your experiences and the reason why like you might be compelled to investigate a horror story like this. And I love that it like kind of, you know, demystifies the horror experience and kind of serves as this almost decompression point after what could be a very intense story. Yeah, I like it. Feels like you know what it feels like, Clay? It feels like a talkback after a play, and I love a talkback.
Oh,
A talkback is great.
That
You get to
pull
is
the chair to the center of the stage. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. The set's
Yeah.
behind us, and it's just like let's wrap
What
everybody.
it sounds like to me is like when you're in an art gallery and there's an abstract.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
I think they're so useful, and
Yeah,
they puncture a little bit of the tight fourth wall that a novel is by its very nature. It's all
yeah.
fourth wall,
All fourth wall.
and I think that's a really beautiful. Like I accidentally had one in my last book
Yeah.
because my last book was about the Magdalen laundries in Ireland, which were these
Mm.
institutions that women were put in for no reason, for many years, and I was concerned that people from other countries wouldn't know what they were,
Yeah.
and not in a condescending way, in a like, this is a kind of a phenomenon that's pretty limited to this country, and this book relies on your understanding of them. And I got to kind of do the abstract at the front and go, hello reader,
Yeah.
hi, it's me, hello, you know. And I think it's amazing that you've used it as this lovely framing mechanism on all of your work, and to use it as this sort of meta waypoint for the fireside. That's really cool. It's really cool.
I love it, and that's such. I really want to read that book now too.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
sign me up. It's horrible of me to say, but yet I still want to now read it even more. Yeah, and I don't know. Like I've just always been the sort of person who like. I'm curious if either of you are like this too. We're like, I don't memorize stats. Like I've never been like a sports. I don't have the brain for like, here's how this team did the past like 5 years. But like, I find anecdote really compelling and fascinating. So like, if you tell me like, oh, this guy, pitched a no hitter while he was on acid, or like this guy played a great game and he just found out that his father died, then I'm just like, holy shit, I'm so.
That's called gossip.
Yeah, I love gossip. And if it's gossip that like can like informs art, like I love Rumors, like the album Rumors, great album.
Oh, great
like
album.
When you know it's like the divorce album, then you're like, oh,
even
like,
better. Yeah.
Every song suddenly takes on new meaning, and so like I love it. It's like important to the experience of art, I find.
Nat, we are keeping Sarah up. We got to get to your story.
So
we got to hear some.
I'm so sorry.
No, Sarah, at this point, you have no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you're the one who is actively keeping yourself from sleep.
I know. I'm so sorry.
It's true. It's true.
But Nat, I gotta ask. Is it story time? You got something for us?
For better or worse, I'm gonna try a thing.
Oh man!
And some of this will be redundant to our conversation because this is a thing I've been doing lately, where I want to do like a reading, but I always have a hard time picking out the thing that I want to read. And like this book has a bunch of action set pieces and stuff like that would be super fun to read, right? But there's so many like twists and turns, and I don't want to give anything away. We've done such a good job of avoiding spoilers as best we can. So I was like, well, what do I read then? And there's a thing that I've been doing live, like twice, I should say. Don't expect anything polished. I'm still figuring this thing out. But it's a fun way to like set up the conversation about this book. I don't usually do it at the end. But I'm going to try it at the end now and see if you can still derive some joy, some meaning. It's perhaps ill-advised. I don't even know if like the music is coming through in the microphone, but we're just going to do what we're going to do. And Clay and Sarah, I need your help with it because this is a thing I do in live events now. So
we'll be in the wings.
Oh, I need you to be in the audience.
But do you want the cameras on or off?
Oh, you can leave it on. You can leave it off. I don't care.
We'll leave them off, but we will still be here. You can hear us.
I can feel your presence. And that's all I need. Because mainly what I need is your voices. Because this ill-advised thing I'm going to do is a joke. I'm going to try a joke. And you can't really do a joke without an audience. Especially this kind of joke. So Sarah and Clay, and anyone listening to this in the privacy of your home, in the privacy of your AirPods, whenever you're listening to this, you can feel free to do it along as well. But I need you to participate in this joke. And that joke begins with, knock, knock.
Who's there?
Who's there?
Do you ever think about how ominous a joke setup that is? I mean, here you are sitting quietly in your home, your place of safety and solitude, and this interruption, this intrusion makes itself known against your door, a stranger. And not just any stranger, but a coy stranger who's only going to parcel out their identity to you one bit at a time. I mean, who's there? First name. Your first name? Who? I need more information than that. What do you want from me? Why are you doing it like this? Why can't we talk about how terrifying this is? Clay and Sarah, you're supposed to repeat all of that back. Okay. Oh, never mind. I'll let you off the hook. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. What I will do instead is ask you a question, and you can just think about it in your mind. It's a question we've already kind of broached, but I really want you to conjure up something specific. Can you remember the weirdest thing that you were ever afraid of as a little kid? Like a silly, harmless thing that terrified you. For me, besides Large Marge, there was Superman 3, there was Jaws 3, there was Roger Rabbit, there was Willy Wonka, and of course, Don Bluth, Brave Little Toaster, Thumbelina. I have so many answers to this question. I was such a scared little kid. Here's another particularly harrowing thing. Traumatized me with a capital T. It's the song Man-Eater by Hall & Oates. I am 1000% not kidding. Man-Eater, much like Large Marge, sent me running out of the room, screaming. Made me turn off the radio, screaming. I did a lot of screaming as a little kid. And sure, we can laugh about that now. Oh, look at that silly little kid, scared of some blue-eyed soul, Philadelphia soul pop song. But that is the laughter of adults. As a child, I mean, listen to these lyrics. She only comes out at night. The lean and hungry type. She's deadly, man, and she can really rip your world apart. Mind over matter. Oh, the beauty is there, but the beast is in her heart. Oh, oh. And here's the worst part. Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy. She'll chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater. The woman is wild. Terrifying. I mean, this is not a song about some profligate 1980s Jezebel. It's a song about a literal carnivore. One who only comes out at night. Watch out, small boy listening to this on the radio. Ugh. I mean, I literally stopped listening to the radio for the remainder of the 1980s and for a good chunk of the 1990s just for fear that this song might come on. Here she comes. I think about fear a lot. I mean, of course I do. I'm a horror writer. We're all horror writers on this call. And fear to us is what butter is to a French chef. Pour it over everything. Slather it, glaze it, reduce it, deconstruct it. What is fear? Why is fear? Knock, knock. Who's there? Oh, it's fear. Fear who? Dread fear? Shock fear? Disgust fear? Existential fear? Paralyzing fear? Run the fuck away fear? Watch out, boy. So many delicious varietals. Fear is the great shapeshifter. The shadow on the wall. And as we get older, it gets so eclectic. Money fear, career fear, love fear, self fear, medical fear, happiness fear, politics fear, fear of dreams not coming true, fear of dreams coming true. The world's a scary place. I don't have to tell you that. It'll chew you up. Fear can eat you alive. But consider this. An NIH study came out in late 2020 that concluded, and there is no joke here, that people who consume horror regularly, in other words, horror fans, fearmongers, were more, quote, psychologically resilient during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of them even wrote books about killer plants at that time. There were less instances of depression among horror fans. They were more optimistic about the future. It makes me think of another joke, actually. Not a knock-knock joke, although, well, kind of. Imagine a man, and he's banging his head against a wall really hard. Wham, wham, wham. Knock, knock, knock. And you see him and you say, whoa, 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 guy, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And he looks at you, maybe blood trickling down between his eyes, and he says, because it feels really good when I stop. So maybe being a scared little kid is a gift we give ourselves when we're older. A little taste of psychological resilience. Fear is essential. It is elemental. It is necessary. Sometimes it's even delightful. But is that really a comfort when we're all alone in the dark? When that song comes on the radio telling you to watch out? This book is about many things. It's a chase story. It's about fathers and other inscrutable monsters. But more than anything, if you haven't guessed by now, it's about fear. About the way adults digest fear and children swallow it whole. It's about the innocuous things that can terrify you and the mind-obliterating horrors that you have to learn to live with. It's about those thoughts, the ones that only come out at night. Here they come. Watch out, watch out, watch out. I hope when the wolf comes home makes you remember what it's like to be small and afraid. But I hope it also reminds you that you're an adult now. You get to ask questions. You get to demand answers, investigate the stranger at your door or in your head. You get to ask questions, and there's a question you must ask. You know the one when you hear that sound at your door, almost like a scratching. Like a wolf outside, let me in, let me in. You hear that sound, and you know what you must do, that question you must ask. As an adult, as a child, you must ask it with your whole frightened heart. When you hear that sound, so let me hear you ask it. Everyone listening to this, wherever you are, Clay and Sarah, let me hear you ask it. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Ah.
Who?
The wolf has come home at last. Thank you.
Oh man, Nat. I love it. That's the second time I've heard it, and
So gagged. It's so good.
oh God, I'm just glad that we get to hold on to it for posterity's sake. So
That's the official recording right there.
Yep, there you go. I mean, you did a part of the audiobook too. Like, I'm surprised there isn't like an addendum, like a bonus track or something. But
Could be. I mean, I just wrote this thing last week, so we'll tack it on.
We'll hold on to it. I'll take it.
Yeah, okay.
Guys, you're amazing. Thank you so much.
You're
Sarah,
amazing.
thank you so much for
amazing.
staying awake.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so sorry for jumping in on your chat there as well, Nat. Thank you for letting me talk to you as well.
That was delightful.
Thank you both so much. And thanks for asking such amazingly insightful questions, Clay. I really appreciate it. It was fabulous.
Well, thank you for writing such an amazing book. I mean, both of you. Like, I am literally like the only reason I do this podcast thing is just because these are the books that I read that I love. Like, there's no there's no reason, ostensible purpose. There's nothing like here other than like I just want to talk to you because these books are amazing and I love them. So and I just want to share that love with other people. So
Hey,
and
wait, Clay.
that's love with that's a plant love for you right there.
With the vine of love growing.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been a guest on this show yet? Because like we love your books too, and like you gotta have the Fearmonger treatment.
I mean, no, I don't, because
change
I
that.
get tired of hearing myself talk
Yeah.
about my stuff. So,
But your
not
books
on my
are
show.
loved too.
Nat, when
I
you
wanna
start a
love on your-
podcast, I'll be the first guest. But until then, not on my show.
Oh
bub.
man, you're such a disciplinarian. You're such a father figure.
I know. Fathers are motherfuckers. All fathers are motherfuckers? Is that what
All
it is?
dads are motherfuckers.
All dads are motherfuckers. Guys, for those of you listening, you need to go out and buy Eat the Ones You Love by Sarah Maria Griffin. And you have to buy it's a little bit of a joke at this point, but I love to get your title wrong. But I've gotten it wrong. So like purposely gotten it wrong that like every time I try to say the correct title, I'm like, oh my God, I'm always like, when the wolf knocks on the door, or when the wolf
Wake up
comes
and open the
home,
door with the wolf. With your eyes.
by Nathaniel Bartholomew Cassidy. Guys, this has been such a lovely night, and I really, really, genuinely appreciate you taking the time to share your stories. So thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Nat.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Have a lovely night, everybody. This has been Fearmongers. Yay.
Keep mongering.